Cho Chi-yang returned to his residence, the largest pavilion in the city. Guarded at all times by more than a dozen warriors, it was considered the safest place in Maishan. Still smiling, Cho Chi-yang entered his room, then stopped. Someone else was sitting in his chair. "Who are you?" His voice was sharp with anger. His authority had been violated. "Cho Chi-yang, you know my name, yet you dare enter my residence without permission. You even have the gall to sit in my chair." He immediately shouted toward the door. "Is there no one out there?" "Cho Chi-yang, it seems you've made quite a fortune." A name surfaced in his mind. Cho Chi-yang gasped, his legs giving out beneath him. The mere name Dark Moon filled him with terror. The man sat silently. Though his face was hidden, his eyes glowed faintly red in the darkness. Cho Chi-yang trembled. "I didn't recognize you. Please forgive me." "Spare me. I thought you were no longer interested since you hadn't contacted me." He slammed his forehead against the floor repeatedly until it bled, ignoring the pain entirely. Years ago, when the Zodiac Division was on the brink of collapse, Dark Moon had appeared and provided Cho Chi-yang with immense capital, on the condition that he surrender 30% of his annual earnings. With no other choice, Cho Chi-yang accepted. The Zodiac Division prospered, but resentment eventually took root. Believing he had paid enough, he refused to continue. Instead, he built a personal army. The next morning, he woke surrounded by corpses, his bodyguards and concubines alike. He alone had slept through it all. From that day on, he never missed a payment. 7 years ago, however, Dark Moon stopped appearing. Gradually, Cho Chi-yang convinced himself that Dark Moon was gone, and so he forgot or forced himself to. But today, Dark Moon had returned. Fear overwhelmed him. His pants grew wet. "Please spare me. I have everything prepared. Open the storage beside you. You'll find all the records and funds. Take everything." Dark Moon opened the cabinet. Papers flipped softly. Cho Chi-yang bowed deeply, trembling. After a long silence, he dared to look up. Dark Moon was gone. Relief flooded his body as he slumped to the floor, tears streaming down his face. Then the clouds parted. Moonlight revealed Dark Moon's true face, a man more beautiful than any woman's skin white as snow. It was Pyo Wol. A clever rabbit has 3 burrows. Guju Yang, the former leader of the Blood Shadow Group, had scattered their funds among talented but impoverished merchants like Cho Chi-yang. Operating under the name Dark Moon ensured no one would ever trace the money back to the Blood Shadow Group. Those names were recorded in the booklet Pyo Wol found at Clearwind Manor. Now, it was time to visit the next one. Just as Gujiang once did, Pyo Wol intended to carve out multiple hidden dens across Sichuan. Yu Xinfeng stared solemnly at the burned slums of Chengdu. People sat amid the ashes, lost and directionless. "It's not your fault. You shouldn't blame yourself." "How can I not? I witnessed their crimes and did nothing. But it was unavoidable. Still, I cannot forgive myself." Soha has smiled gently. "I believe in you, uncle. You are righteous." His heart felt slightly lighter. "What will you do now?" "I'll stay in Chengdu and investigate him." His gaze hardened. An assassin capable of killing 7 stars without being detected was a danger to Zhenghu. "If he threatens Zhenghu itself, I will eliminate him." "Soha," he said firmly, "go home." "I won't. He's dangerous." "Then I should stay." "No!" Tears welled in her eyes. "I arranged an escort to your hometown." "All right." She left with the escort. Yu Xinfeng clenched his fists. "I will uncover who you truly are." The winter that year was exceptionally cold. Normally, winters in Sichuan province were mild thanks to its basin-like geography surrounded by tall mountains. However, that year was different. Heavy snowfall fell without pause, and the bitter cold persisted throughout the entire winter. Roads leading out of Sichuan were completely blocked, forcing its people into isolation for several months. "I've never experienced such a brutal winter. Looks like I'll live a bit longer." Smiles appeared everywhere, bright, refreshed smiles born from surviving a harsh winter and welcoming spring. Yu Xinfeng had come to Chengdu the previous year and never left. He had relentlessly searched for Pyo Wol, but since autumn, Pyo Wol had vanished without a trace. With no information and winter sealing the roads, Yu Xinfeng was forced to remain in Chengdu. Now, he looked weary, exhausted in both body and spirit. He had sent his niece away for safety, endured the winter alone, and achieved nothing. Hooves thundered down the street. A large carriage stopped abruptly in front of Yu Xinfeng. Before he could react, someone leapt out. "Uncle!" The woman who hugged him tightly was Li Soha. "Soha, you're here!" Yu Xinfeng stared in disbelief. "When you didn't come, I came instead." Tears welled in her eyes. She hadn't slept peacefully since he sent her away. The moment the roads reopened, she rushed back. "You didn't come alone along such dangerous roads, did you?" "I came with a friend." "A friend?" Yu Xinfeng turned toward the carriage. A woman dressed in light attire steps down. A cold, elegant beauty like frost-blooming flowers. She bowed politely. "This junior, Wanga Young, greets the shadowless monk, Yu Xinfeng." "Wanga Young." Yu Xinfeng gasped. "Then are you the fairy phantom sword?" Shock spread across his face. Her teacher was one of the most revered warriors of the current age, Han Yukian. One of the three saints, Han Yuqian, was a peerless swordsman said to have no equal whenever he drew his blade. As his disciple, Wan Ga Young demonstrated extraordinary talent in swordsmanship, particularly her mastery of the phantom sword. That was why Yu Xinfeng was surprised upon seeing her. Wan Ga Young alone was worthy of respect simply for being Han Yuqian's disciple. Oh, I had no idea Ms. Wan was acquainted with my niece. I've known Soha for a long time. This is simply the first time we've traveled this far together. You must have come here because of her. I apologize for troubling you unintentionally. Not at all. I've always wanted to visit Chengdu. Wan Ga Young replied with a gentle smile. Watching her expression, she found Yu Xinfeng to be a thoughtful and considerate man. Though the two were the same age, Wan Ga Young appeared far more mature. Her eyes carried a deep, composed presence that reflected her character. Since you've all come such a long way, you must be hungry. I'll take you somewhere good. I'll have dinner with you tomorrow, uncle. Why? I have people to meet today. Who? The Golden Heavenly Hall is gathering here. You mean their meeting is being held in a place this remote? We happened to be in Chengdu at the same time, so we decided to meet here. Please understand for today. The Golden Heavenly Hall, meeting here. Yu Xinfeng's mouth hung open in shock. The Golden Heavenly Hall was an association of famous young warriors in Zhenghu. While not every warrior belonged to it, many maintained strong ties through the hall. Not everyone will attend, Li Soha explained. Only a small group, so don't be too surprised. That makes sense. Who's coming? I'll tell you later, uncle. I need to attend the meeting first. All right, I won't keep such busy people any longer. You know where I'm staying, right? The old house, so you remember. I'll be there. Come see me once the meeting ends. Welcome. The waiter stuttered in surprise, clearly flustered by the beauty of the two women. After blushing briefly, he recovered. The inn is fully booked. Someone arrived earlier, Li Soha said. A tall, handsome man from Hunan. He talks a lot and… Ah, that person. He took up 2 tables, saying his companions would arrive soon. Please take us to him. Li Soha slipped the waiter a coin, and he eagerly led them upstairs. A young man occupying 2 tables waved enthusiastically. He was handsome enough to turn heads wherever he went. Long time no see, Mr. Mun. You must have arrived early and already visited the brothels, didn't you? The reactions were completely different. Li Soha frowned while Wan Ga Young stared at him with an icy gaze. The man was Seo Munpyong, a member of the Golden Heavenly Hall. Known as the Little Boxer, rumors claimed no one his age could defeat him. Wan Ga Young glared at him as though he were a disgusting insect. Seo Munpyong noticed and didn't care. Haha, Chengdu's courtesans are truly something else, so passionate. Stop it, my ears are rotting. If you hate it so much, why weren't you born a man? With a face like yours, women would have thrown themselves at you. Say another word and I'll cut you down. I surrender, I'm joking. Put the sword away. This is why you're unpopular. You keep swinging that thing. Her brows twitched violently, but Li Soha quickly grabbed her hand. Where are the others? You're the first to arrive. They'll show up soon. A familiar aura washed over them. All 3 turned toward the stairs. You're here. A small smile appeared on Seo Munpyong's lips. There was only one person whose presence stirred the heart so strongly. Step by step, a towering figure emerged. He stood a head taller than Seo Munpyong, broad-shouldered like a steel tower. Thick brows, sharp eyes, and tightly pressed lips reminiscent of a tiger. Young leapt to his feet. As expected, you arrived first. Someone had to check Chengdu's situation. Once everyone had gathered and taken their seats, the waiter and the innkeeper began bringing out the dishes that 4C Pavilion took pride in. Jin Jungwoo, who had been quietly observing the table, suddenly lifted his head and looked toward a particular spot. Wan Ga Young noticed his expression and asked, "What's wrong? I felt someone watching us. Everyone here is staring. Isn't it just one of them?" "Is that so?" Jin Jungwoo nodded and looked away, but the suspicion in his eyes did not fade. No, that gaze was different. A faint chill still lingered on his skin. It was not the gaze of an ordinary person. Someone was there. Pyo Wol quietly left the 4C Pavilion. If he stayed even a moment longer, Jin Jungwoo's senses would detect him. Jin Jungwoo, the Golden Heavenly Hall, they hadn't come to Chengdu for leisure. Their usual area of activity lay far from Chengdu, with no natural overlap. That meant they were here with a clear purpose. Pyo Wol needed to uncover that purpose. After walking for some time, Pyo Wol arrived at the slaughterhouse on the outskirts of Chengdu. All cattle and pigs entering the city were slaughtered here. Even before entering, the thick stench of blood filled the air. You're never late. There's no reason to be. We've got a lot of work today. Will you be all right? It's fine. Today is my last day. You're quitting. The butcher's expression darkened briefly, but he nodded. If that's your decision, there's nothing I can do. I'll pay you today then. Inside the slaughterhouse, 10 cows were confined in cages. Their large eyes glistened as if they sensed their impending fate. Pyo Wol looked at them silently. Killing cattle was not as simple as brute force. If the animal suffered, the meat quality would deteriorate. To preserve the meat, the cow had to be killed instantly, without pain. Even experienced butchers struggled with this. The old butcher had spent decades mastering the technique. When Pyo Wol first offered to do the work, People laughed. The stench of blood alone drove most away within minutes. At first, he struggled. Though skilled in assassination, he quickly learned that killing a cow was different. His early attempts caused pain, ruining the meat. The butcher scolded him. Strength alone won't do. This isn't martial arts, you need to calm the cow. The cows sensed his killing intent. To slaughter them painlessly, he had to erase that intent entirely. Kill without thinking of killing. One by one, carcasses piled up. Soon, customers began asking specifically for the meat prepared by Pyo Wol. You're a natural. Your hands were made for slaughter. Through the cows, Pyo Wol studied life and death. Though their bodies differed greatly from humans, he discovered a hidden principle, the acupoints of living beings. Their locations shifted daily, following an unseen law. Today was the final test of his theory. His finger touched a point on its shoulder. The cow collapsed instantly, no pain, no sound. It died as if it had simply reached the end of its lifespan. The rest followed the same fate. Already, Pyo Wol nodded. The butcher rushed inside and froze. There were no visible wounds. After receiving his wages, Pyo Wol bowed once more and left. The old butcher watched his retreating back, eyes filled with awe and fear. The god of death has come and gone. As soon as he entered his room, Pyo Wol reverted to his original appearance. Steward Go was waiting. This is what we gathered today. Jin Jiam Wu, leader of the Golden Heavenly Hall, ranked among the top 5 warriors of the era. Grandson of Jin Wol-myung of the 8 Constellations, known for outstanding character and leadership. Since his late teens, his movements suggest he has been tracking something unusual. The information was mostly well known within Jianghu, but it was sufficient. Pyo Wol asked, have you learned why they chose Chengdu? I'm sorry, I didn't have enough time to find out. Left alone, Pyo Wol opened the window. The sky was dark, clouds obscuring even the moonlight. He stared into the lightless night for a long time. Hong Yuxin was not in a good mood. He had been stuck in Chengdu all winter without achieving any results. It was the first time in his life he had wasted several months doing nothing. He always moved with purpose. Even his smallest actions carried clear intent. What he hated most was squandering time on meaningless matters. Yet for the past few months, he had been doing exactly that. Chief, a subordinate's voice came from outside. What is it? There's a visitor looking for the branch manager. Then why didn't you take him to the branch manager? After the previous branch manager had lost his life to Pyo Wol, Hong Yushin had appointed a replacement. I'm sorry, but the new branch manager can't handle him. Who is he? It's Jin Jianwu, the blood-weaving warrior. Irritation instantly vanished from Hong Yushin's face. Jin Zhongwu was one of the warriors the Hao clan closely monitored. He had drawn attention from a young age as the grandson of Jin Wol-myung, one of the 8 constellations. The subordinate hurried away. Left alone, Hong Yushin straightened his clothes and left the room. He walked slowly on purpose, forcing his guest to wait. Taking the initiative, he opened the door and entered the reception room. My apologies for the delay. I was held up by urgent business. At the sight of him, Hong Yushin clicked his tongue inwardly. Jin Jianwu radiated an unwavering, steel-like presence. He's not someone who can be swayed by psychological tactics. Hong Yushin immediately changed his approach. I am the Chengdu branch manager of the Hao clan. Jin Jianwu opened his eyes. Hong Yushin felt as though he'd been struck by a hammer. Jin Jianwu's gaze was overwhelmingly intense. Are you truly the branch manager? What do you mean? You feel different from the other Hao clan branch managers I've met. Hong Yushin acknowledged his sharp perception but revealed nothing. Perhaps because I've held this position for a long time. Is that so? You didn't come here to question my identity, did you? I still don't know your purpose. I'm looking for someone. Who? I don't know his name. You're searching for someone without knowing their name. That's why I came to the Hao clan. I know there was a major incident here last year. Many died, and the Qingcheng and Ma sects suffered such heavy losses that they closed their gates. Hong Yushin frowned. He already knew what was coming. You're searching for the man responsible. That man was Pyo Wol. The problem was that the Hao clan had already scoured Chengdu last winter. Pyo Wol had vanished without leaving a trace, as if he had evaporated. Though others believed he had left Sichuan, Hong Yushin was convinced otherwise. He's still here, he's just hidden himself. But he had no evidence. You believe he's still here? Yes, I have no proof, but he's like a ghost present in the same city, yet leaving no trace. Then we must find the ghost. I'll be staying at the 4C Pavilion, Jin Jianwu said as he stood. Send word when you have news. We won't disappoint. After Jin Jianwu left, he returned to the 4C Pavilion. What about the others? Soha went to see Yu Xinfeng. Soon as gathering information, and Pyong, take a guess, a brothel, water lily, pavilion. He ran off like a dog in heat. Jin Jianwu burst into laughter. Do you think he's involved? I don't know. That's why we're here. And if he isn't, then we eliminate another possibility. Wan Geyong's expression grew complex. Jin Jianwu wasn't the strongest warrior alive, but his heart was stronger than steel. I need air, she said. There's a performance at the Celestial Music Hall today. Then let's go. They entered the bustling hall to the sound of a zither. A courtesan finished her performance to thunderous applause. Then another performer stepped forward, a man in his late 20s. Their eyes met. That gaze. Jin Jianwu realized it instantly. It was the same gaze he had felt on the day he first arrived in Chengdu, watching him from the shadows at the 4C Pavilion. Pyo Wol's alias was Lim Kwanok. Born into a good family, Lim Kwanok was known for his gentle and calm temperament. Gifted in business, he expanded the fortune he had inherited from his parents. Once his wealth reached a level that satisfied him, he turned his attention to music, a childhood hobby, and began studying it in earnest. That was the history of Lim Kwan Ok. Lim Kwan Ok had been a real person. A few years earlier, while descending from the mountains, he had encountered a robber and lost his life. Because he had truly existed, no one doubted Pyo Wol's identity. The technique isn't outstanding, she said, but the strength in his notes is remarkable. Every sound lands precisely, and each one carries a firm will. Judging by his rough technique, he probably hasn't been learning the instrument for long. What a shame. If he had started earlier, he could have become a great musician. 1. Ga Young calmly assessed Pyo Wol's skill. Jin Jimwoo, however, barely listened. He wasn't interested in the performance itself. He was interested in the man named Pyo Wol. Pyo Wol played with half-closed eyes and a straight back, exuding dignity. He looked as though he had spent his entire life with the zither enough to resemble a seasoned master. Yet to Jin Jimwoo, he appeared less like a musician and more like a warrior wielding a sword. Smooth, pale hands, unmarked by a single blemish, moved steadily across the strings. What if he were holding a sword instead? The thought alone sent a chill up Jin Jianwu's spine. His gaze sharpened, emotion surfacing for the first time in a long while. Wanga Young noticed the change and frowned in confusion. What is it? Is something bothering you? I'm just curious. Wanga Young tilted her head slightly. Having known Jin Jianwu for years, this was the first time she had seen him focus so intensely on another person. I'll look into it, thank you. Jin Jianwu watched Pyo Wol with his arms crossed. Though he hadn't been looking directly at the time, he was certain Pyo Wol was the man he had seen at the Four Seas Pavilion. There was a high chance that Pyo Wol had been one of its guests. Yet Jin Jianwu had never seen a face like his among them. Jin Jianwu possessed an extraordinary memory. Once he saw something, he never forgot it. Even fleeting impressions remained vivid. Of course, it was possible Pyo Wol had blended in with the crowd, but that didn't explain the unease gnawing at him. At that moment, Pyo Wol raised his head mid-performance. Jin Jumwoo's piercing gaze met Pyo Wol's sunken eyes. Jin Jumwoo's eyes gleamed even brighter. Pyo Wol's expression, however, remained unchanged, unfazed by a stare that would have intimidated most warriors. At first, Jin Jumwoo thought Pyo Wol was simply too absorbed to notice him. Yet he quickly dismissed the idea. Pyo Wol was clearly looking straight at him. A faint smile curved Pyo Wol's lips before he lowered his gaze back to the strings, seemingly lost in the music once more. Perhaps it was coincidence. As a musician, he might not have sensed the weight behind Jin Jianwu's stare. No, he definitely met my eyes, and he didn't waver at all. Jin Jianwu slowly calmed himself. Soon, Pyo Wol's performance came to an end. Wow, amazing, that was truly moving. Applause and cheers filled the hall. The band teacher and students smiled in satisfaction, their ears thoroughly indulged. His name is Lim Kwan Ok. He's a native of Chengdu and comes from a reputable family. He inherited considerable wealth from his parents and expanded it further with his business talent. Once he accumulated enough, he pursued music, which he loved as a child. A native of Chengdu, are you certain? I confirmed it with several sources. He's definitely from Chengdu. Are you going to meet him? Wanga Young's eyes widened as she grasped his intent. Jin Jimwoo walked past her and headed behind the stage, where Pyo Wol was packing up his zither. Approaching without hesitation, Jin Jimwoo spoke first. I enjoyed your performance. My name is Jin Jimwoo. I'm Lim Kwan Ok. Thank you. Pyo Wol accepted the compliment with a slightly embarrassed smile. I was deeply moved by your performance, young Master Lim. I hope you'll forgive my rudeness in approaching you so suddenly. Oh, not at all. If it's all right, may I buy you a drink? I'm sorry, I'm not very good with alcohol. Then perhaps we could have tea instead. After hearing your performance, I truly wish to befriend you. At the center of the Thunder Clan's revival stood Wu Jinghua. A former disciple of Tai Yanhua, possessed excellent martial arts. Though overshadowed by Nam Hozan in the past, his loyalty earned him trust. When Tai Yonho was killed by Mu Zhongjin of the Qingcheng sect, no one grieved more than Wu Jinghua. He and his disciples were imprisoned in Qingcheng's guest hall, unable even to hold a funeral. Only after Pyo Wol devastated the Qingcheng sect did they regain freedom, but by then, the Thunder Clan had already been plundered. During their imprisonment, thieves looted the empty clan grounds. The Qingcheng sect, preoccupied with its own devastation, offered neither apology nor compensation. Resentment toward Qingcheng burned fiercely, but retaliation was impossible, so they summoned someone. Wu Jinghua lifted his gaze to the figure seated before him. The person sat among his 5 disciples, completely wrapped in black cloth. Their gender was impossible to determine. This was Hukum. He had been sent by Pyo Wol, sect leader of the Shaolayan temple. Hukum finally spoke. In 3 days, climb Mount Qingcheng. The preparations are complete. All you must do is go and demand answers for your suffering. Shouldn't we know what preparations you made? Wu Jinghua frowned, barely containing his anger. Others were less patient. Enough nonsense. We didn't go all the way to Shaolayan Temple for this. Li Chu-young shouted. At that moment, Hukum vanished. Li Chu-young groaned. Hukum reappeared before him, waving a hand casually. Li Chu-young collapsed, screaming as he clawed at his own flesh. He tore at his skin until he died, leaving behind a flayed corpse. Something writhed in his blood. No one noticed. Hukum's cold voice echoed. To insult me is to insult sect leader Pyo Wol. I will never forgive such disrespect. Fear spread through the room. Only then did they realize the truth. They had summoned a demon. Hukum spoke once more. In 3 days, you will climb Mount Qingcheng. Those who disobey will share his fate. Seo Munpyong was in an excellent mood. After arriving in Chengdu, he had spent his days indulging himself, moving from one brothel to another and enjoying every pleasure they offered. One Ga Young openly criticized his behavior, but Seo Munpyong paid her no mind. He saw no reason to concern himself with the opinions of others. Moreover, it wasn't as though he was forcing or harassing anyone. The courtesans were paid for their services. There was no reason for him to feel guilt or remorse. By now, he had already visited more than a dozen of Chengdu's most famous brothels. According to Sung Yon, who had guided him through the entertainment district, the rest were not worth his time. All the members of the Golden Heavenly Hall had now arrived in Chengdu. Soon, he would have to distance himself from the nightlife and return to Jinjianwu. He decided to indulge himself for just one more day. Still, it felt somewhat lonely. Among those who had traveled with him, no one shared his enthusiasm for such pleasures. A woman was walking down the opposite end of the corridor. Red lips stood out against deep black eyes, and her skin was as white as freshly fallen snow. She surpassed every courtesan Seo Munpyong had seen in Chengdu. Dressed in a flowing red silk robe, she walked calmly, paying no attention to him. Seo Munpyong hurriedly asked the secretary, "Who is that woman?" "I'll find out myself." Seo Munpyong strode toward her without waiting for an answer. "You can't," the secretary cried. "She's the madam of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion." "That makes it even better," Seo Munpyong replied with a grin. He grabbed her wrist. She cried out in pain. "Are you the madam here?" Her voice was cautious. She was Su Haiyang, the madam of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion. Seo Munpyong slowly looked her up and down. "You're on an entirely different level," he said admiringly. "Truly beautiful." "Thank you, but please let go of my hand. Have a drink with me tonight." "I'm sorry, but I've retired from receiving guests." Desire gleamed in Seo Munpyong's eyes. The more difficult a woman was to obtain, the more obsessed he became. "If you continue to refuse," he said, "this place won't be able to operate after today. I'll destroy the Divine Fragrance Pavilion. Someone of your reputation would be criticized by Jiang Hu for such an act." He scoffed. "They'll side with me and say you deserved it." His threat was absolute. Su Haiyang closed her eyes tightly. Should I accept? If the pavilion collapsed, Pyo Wol would be affected. Perhaps she could at least gather useful information by sacrificing herself. She was, after all, a courtesan. Yet her heart resisted. "I must have forgotten my place ever since meeting Pyo Wol." She made her decision. An emotionless voice cut through the air. Both Su Haiyang and Seo Munpyong turned. A man stood there, clad in a long red robe. He was not strikingly handsome, but his appearance was refined, his skin unnaturally pale. She recognized him instantly. "Master!" Su Haiyang shook off Seo Munpyong's hand and bowed deeply. Seo Munpyong frowned and looked at the man. "Are you the owner of this brothel? Educate your courtesans properly. How dare one refuse a guest?" "I don't force anyone to serve," the man replied calmly. "I leave it to their judgment. So courtesans choose their own guests. They're human too." Seo Munpyong bristled. "What's your name? You don't need to know." "What? I'm not obligated to answer simply because you ask." Seo Munpyong laughed sharply. "It's been a long time since I've been this angry." His interest in Su Haiyang vanished, replaced by fury toward the man before him. He strode forward, his powerful aura surging outward. Seo Munpyong, the little boxer, possessed overwhelming presence. Few among his peers could stand against it. He only intended to intimidate the brothel owner. But the man's expression did not change. Instead, Seo Munpyong's did. "You've learned some martial arts, it seems." His fist rose. The hallway wall exploded. The man was gone. Another bang echoed as rubble fell. A chill brushed the back of Seo Munpyong's neck. Pyo Wol was suddenly behind him. Shock filled Seo Munpyong's face. For a warrior, having one's back exposed was equivalent to offering up one's life. "Bastard." Seo Munpyong twisted around. Something cold pierced his waist. A whisper followed. "If you want to take someone by force, you'd better be prepared to risk your life." His fingers touched a hole no larger than a fingertip. He looked at Pyo Wol. Dark red blood dripped from the index finger of Pyo Wol's right hand. Only then did Seo Munpyong realize that the wound in his back had been caused by nothing more than a finger. He felt utterly deceived. He had assumed Pyo Wol knew some martial arts, but he never imagined someone capable of completely deceiving his senses and approaching from behind. Had he known Pyo Wol's level was this high, he would have been fully alert from the start. "I'm not holding you responsible for what happened to that idiot, rest assured." "Then why?" One Ga Young smiled softly. I'm just curious who put that fool in such a state. I swear on my honor, I will never harm your master. Let her in. Separated from the main building, the annex was quiet and understated. One Ga Young's eyes sharpened at its simple, elegant style, distinctly feminine, unlike the grandeur of the main pavilion. There's a high chance the owner of this annex is a courtesan. The main building's residents likely stay elsewhere, only coming here temporarily. As she expected, the room carried the scent of a woman, yet the person inside was a man, Pyo Wol. He did not use his original face, but the one he had used when dealing with Seo Moon Pyong, handsome, but not striking enough to attract undue attention. Still, there was something about him that drew the eye. Snake! One Ga Young thought of a snake with a beautiful pattern. At first it seemed repulsive, but the more one looked, the more lethal its beauty became. She bit her lip, jolted back to focus. Are you the brothel keeper of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion? She asked coldly. The madam is Su Haiyang. I simply provide financial support for the pavilion, Pyo Wol replied. So you're the owner. I'm One Ga Young, the fairy phantom swordsman. Have you heard of me? No. I must try harder then. I thought I was famous in Jianghu, but apparently not here. It's not your fault. I'm simply not interested in the outside world. Well, you've never left Sichuan province? No. I understand then. One Ga Young's smile was subtle, yet utterly deadly. A woman as cold as ice smiling with such innocence radiated a charm that could captivate almost any man, but not Pyo Wol. What's your name? She asked. Pyo Wol furrowed his brow. With this face, there was no reason to reveal his real name. You can call me Yaju, the master of the night. What's your real name? We're not close enough for that. I told you mine, yet you hide yours. That's unfair. If it bothers you, leave. One Ga Young crossed her arms. Pyo Wol's demeanor was unusual. He treated her as he would anyone indifferent to beauty. She realized her charms would not sway him. Her purpose was not seduction. She came for information. All right, Yaju, I'm here to ask you something. If it's information, go to the Hao clan. Pyo Wol remained silent, his gaze piercing through her. Even a skilled Jianghu warrior like her felt the weight of his indifferent eyes. What do you want to know? He asked finally. The assassin. The one who caused the bloodbath in Sichuan last year. Was it you? Why do you think so? Just intuition. Why are you looking for him? I want answers. One Ga Young studied him, but his gaze revealed nothing. For the first time, she could not read a person by their eyes. He seemed to see her thoughts while concealing his own. She turned away, unease prickling her senses. Can I come back again? No. Steward Go ran to him, urgency in his eyes. Pyo Wol asked, what's going on? Unable to speak, Steward Go handed him a pre-written letter. After reading it, Pyo Wol asked, any suspicious movements in the Thunder Clan? Steward Go nodded. After losing both their sect leader and successor, the Thunder Clan had collapsed. Recovery without a central figure was nearly impossible. If a warrior had truly been at the center, the collapse would not have been so swift. Pyo Wol frowned. Monitor the Thunder Clan. Track all their actions and report to me. Steward Go bowed. Pyo Wol looked to the rising moon. A foul scent lingered in the letter, warning him that trouble was brewing. An inspector rushed in, urgency in his eyes. A major incident at Yogyeom village outside Chengdu. Hong Yushin's face hardened. Show me. He and his team, including the new branch manager Du Il-shul, traveled to Yuljeom village. Upon arrival, Hong Yushin was stunned. The village, once beautiful, was decimated. Buildings lay in ruin, and countless villagers' bodies littered the streets. Every body bore sharp scars, covered in blood. Any survivors? None, replied a subordinate grimly. When did this happen? This morning. And the killer? We couldn't find them. Maybe we never will. Explain. Look at their hands. Hong Yushin observed the corpses holding knives, flails, clubs, or pickaxes. The wounds indicate they fought one another. But Yuljeom is a clan village. They're family. How could they attack each other? The scars on their bodies matched the weapons they held. The villagers had turned on one another. Not a single survivor remained. Hong Yushin's heart sank. We must uncover the truth. The inspection team will focus solely on this case until it is resolved. Yes. The inspectors responded, but their voices lacked conviction. Hong Yushin's eyes burned with a mixture of shock and determination. Urgent, senior brother. May I come in? It's urgent. The Thunder Clan is outside. Mu Yongjin exhaled heavily. Mu Yongjin's killing of Tae Yonho, the Thunder Clan leader, had been a disgrace. The Thunder Clan warriors demand punishment for the responsible party. Mu Yongjin is already dead. Who else should be responsible? Outside, the Thunder Clan warriors waited. Mu Yongjin approached them. I am Wu Jinghua, new sect leader of the Thunder Clan. As successor, I demand the Qingcheng sect be held accountable for our former leader's death. Mu Yongjin asked, how do you expect me to take responsibility? Wu Jinghua's answer was chilling. A life of equal status must be taken. The Qingcheng disciples reacted with outrage. How dare you threaten our sect leader? Even so, Wu Jinghua recalled Hukum's warning and followed his orders cautiously. Fear of Hukum tempered their courage, but the shadow of the Qingcheng sect's reputation remained. Then, a strange man appeared. I am Yi Pyong, sect leader of the High Sky sect. Myungjin's face lit up, expecting support. Instead, Yi Pyong declared, the Thunder Clan's demands are appropriate. Shock rippled through the Chingcheng disciples. Another voice followed. I am Zhou Gyolho, leader of the Jinsong sect. I agree with Mr. Yi Pyong. The Chingcheng disciples' despair deepened. Even a just and fair warrior like Zhou Gyolho sided against them. Wu Jinghua clenched his fists, realizing that two influential sect leaders now strengthened the Thunder Clan's position. He assumed Hukum was orchestrating this. Jin sensed something peculiar in the eyes of Yi Pyong and Zhou Gyolho. They seem out of their minds. Jin nodded gravely. Their positions made them impossible to ignore. At that moment, a disciple approached, Chongyong, one of the Qingcheng sect's great warriors. A dagger pierced Jin's waist, wielded by Chongyong. Jin gasped. Chongyong spoke monotonously. If you do wrong, you must pay the price. Jin struck him with profound ki, subduing Chongyong instantly. But the assault didn't end there. Another disciple, Sehun, attacked Jin. Suddenly, the rest of the Qingcheng disciples turned against each other, seemingly possessed. Why are you doing this? Yi Pyong commanded the High Sky disciples to attack the Qingcheng sect, and Zhou Gyolho did the same with the Jinsong sect. Wu Jinghua, startled, was urged by Hukum's voice. What are you hesitating for, idiot? Attack! With the Thunder Clan also engaging, the training ground erupted into chaos. Disciplines clashed against each other, blood staining the hall. Everyone, stop! Jin shouted, but it was futile. Only Hukum watched. Cloaked in black, he reveled in the chaos he had created. A master of fear and manipulation, Hukum's skills, drugs, and wide-eye techniques allowed him to dominate minds effortlessly. The chaos only grew, feeding Hukum's delight. What the hell? Jin Jianwu and his companions cursed as they ascended Mount Qingcheng to visit the Qingcheng sect. By the time they reached the gates, the smell of blood hit them, signaling that something had gone terribly wrong. They rushed forward, and the scene before them was devastating. Jin lay on the ground in Jin's arms, while the other Qingcheng disciples struggled to defend themselves. Warriors from the Thunder Clan, High Sky sect, and Jinxiang sect launched a coordinated attack. The Qingcheng sect is under attack. We have to help them. Hesitation was not an option. They could not allow the Qingcheng disciples to suffer further. Jing Jianwu roared, releasing a thunderbolt between the Qingcheng sect and Thunder Clan disciples. The ground exploded in a deafening roar. Stone and soil scattered in every direction, striking the exhausted warriors. Screams echoed as the lightning strike knocked attackers off balance. Mr. Jin, they suddenly turned against us. It seems they were subjected to black magic, Jin explained. Black magic. Before the attack, we could sense manipulation through their eyes. There is no other explanation for our disciples' sudden betrayal. At first glance, the betraying disciples appeared normal, but their lack of remorse confirmed Jin's suspicion. It's magic, Jin Jianwu muttered, noticing Jiang's corpse. The disciple lay bleeding, but what caught Jin Jianwu's attention were the microscopic movements in the blood. Cursed poison, he realized. Depending on its type, cursed poison could manipulate a person's mind. They're being controlled. If it's cursed poison, the caster must be nearby. Find and eliminate the source. Jin Jianwu's aura radiated like a net, scanning for abnormal presences. His mastery of the transcendent cultivation technique allowed him to detect even the smallest foreign energy in his vicinity. He extended his ki 50 meters outward, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. A presence was hiding near a massive tree. He dashed forward, sword drawn, channeling energy into it. With a swift strike, the tree split. A black shadow emerged. Hukum, startled by the sudden attack. Reveal yourself, Jin Jianwu demanded, striking with a storm of sword techniques. Hukum's face twisted in anger. Someone has ruined my plans, but before Jin Jianwu could fully pursue, Hukum vanished into the forest. Impossible to track, his speed and stealth made him a formidable and elusive threat. Jin Jianwu clenched his teeth, knowing the chaos Hukum had unleashed would continue. Even without the caster present, the warriors remained under Hukum's control. His eyes settled on Wu Jinghua of the Thunder Clan. Hukum's manipulation was clear. Subduing Wu Jinghua would reveal the truth behind the attack. Inside the Qingcheng sect, exhausted disciples sat amidst countless corpses. Warriors from the Thunder Clan, High Sky sect, and Jinsong sect were kneeling, defeated. Jin Jianwu's party had first eliminated the cursed-controlled Qingcheng disciples. Once the instigators fell, the remaining forces surrendered, their will to fight gone. Do you know who manipulated their minds? I don't know. Was it really cursed poison? I saw it myself. In the blood of the disciples, there were microscopic worms. Nothing else could explain their actions. This opponent is a monster. If we fail to catch him, the repercussions will be endless. We must hunt him down immediately, Jin Jianwu said. Do we know his identity? Let's ask the Thunder Clan, Jin Jianwu suggested. The surviving members, low-ranking and unaware of the full picture, revealed only that their top members had traveled to Shizong. The Shaolayan Temple, origin of the Thunder Clan, is in Shizong, Muwajin noted. Then there's a high probability that the black figure is a warrior from the Shaolayan Temple, Jin Jingwu concluded. Muhajin's voice sank. If the Shaolayan Temple is involved, this is no ordinary case. First, we must confirm if the black figure is truly one of their warriors. Then, we can seek cooperation from other factions, Jin Jingwu instructed. Muwajin nodded, though his expression remained grim. Their sect had suffered too much. Revenge was impossible for now. He resolved to rebuild the Qingcheng sect before striking back. Even if it takes 100 years, we will repay this humiliation once we are strong again. Jin Jianwu turned to Niam Sun and Wan Ga Young. Track him down. We must catch him at all costs. He was wounded by my sword, a deep cut. Any reputable doctor would treat it, likely in Chengdu. We should contact the Hao clan for help. Their support will make this easier. I'll handle that, Jin Jiam, Wu nodded. One Guy Young added, I'll inform Soha and Mr. Yu Xinfeng, he'll surely help. Jin Jiam Wu's unwavering sense of justice, his belief that power must be used righteously, compelled Nguyen Sun to follow him faithfully. At least you won't walk this path alone. I'll always be with you, Neong Sun thought. Go home safely. Su Haiyang said, her eyes bittersweet as she sent off Pyo Wol. Pyo Wol glanced back at her, her face flushed under his gaze. Though they had already shared several nights together, every time he looked at her, her heart still raced uncontrollably. No matter where she was, Su Haiyang found herself searching for him. I'll come again next time, Pyo Wol said. I'll be waiting, she replied with a smile. After leaving the Divine Fragrance Pavilion, Pyo Wol walked along the dark, dreary street. But he felt at ease. The shadows sharpened his senses, making him more aware of everything around him. He sensed someone watching him, a strong, heavy presence as imposing as a mountain, even in the darkness. Jin Jimwu, he thought. Sure enough, in the distance, Jin Jimwu leaned against a wall, eyes fixed on him. Pyo Wol narrowed his eyes. He was now the master of the night. Jin Jianwu stepped away from the wall and approached him. My name is Jin Jianwu, the blood-weaving warrior. Are you Yaju, the owner of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion? Jin Jianwu's gaze was unwavering. He had already enlisted the Hao clan and Yu Xinfeng to track Hukum, but the search yielded nothing. He needed more allies. That's why he came to Yaju. Pyo Wol, strong enough to subdue Seo Munpyong and influential among courtesans, was exactly the help Jin Jianwu needed. I didn't expect to meet you like this, he said. What is it? I want to ask for your help, Yaju. He stopped mid-sentence, staring intently into Pyo Wol's eyes. An intense light flared from his gaze. Pyo Wol met it without flinching. I've seen your eyes before, Jin Jianwu continued. But back then, it wasn't this face. So your current appearance, it must not be your true face. Pyo Wol was surprised. He had only met Jin Jianwu once, under a different identity, Lim Quanok. Yet, Jin Jianwu recognized him instantly. Who are you? Who do you think I am? Jin Jianwu replied. For the first time, Pyo Wol felt hiding his true self was pointless. He no longer concealed his identity. Jin Jianwu's eyes burned like the sun, fierce and unyielding. Pyo Wol's remained unreadable, cold and still, but paradoxically, this convinced Jin Jianwu further. I've heard rumors about an assassin who wreaks havoc across Sichuan. At first, I didn't believe it, but I know now I'm looking for him. Why? I've been tracking a group for a long time. If he belongs to that organization, I'll find out. What if he does? I'll fight him, subdue him, and uncover the truth. That's reckless. I hear that a lot, Jin Jianwu said proudly, showing no shame. Answer me. Who are you? Lim Quanok of the Celestial Music Hall, Yaju of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion, or the assassin who caused bloodshed in Sichuan. Who is your true self? Pyo Wol's face shifted, revealing his true appearance, luminous white skin and strikingly beautiful features. That's your true face. Jin Jimwu asked. Yes, that's worth hiding. You draw attention anywhere. You didn't come just to comment on my appearance, did you? Pyo Wol asked. Who were you looking for? The 9 dragons, Jin Jimwu replied, tossing a gold coin with 9 entwined dragons engraved upon it. What is this? These marks have been appearing recently. Those who use them operate independently. Unlike traditional sects, they care not for reputation, only profit. A new class has emerged, powerful yet mercantile in nature. So, I'll ask bluntly, are you part of this organization? No. Do you believe me? I do, Pyo Wol said, intrigued. Why? It's hard to believe someone with eyes like yours would mingle with others. Jin Jianwu laughed. My name is Jin Jingwu. What's yours? Pyo Wol. Let's become friends. I think we could be true friends, regardless of your status. I refuse, Pyo Wol said sharply, yet Jin Jingwu didn't relent. If you change your mind, come to me anytime. I truly want to be friends. Pyo Wol stepped past him coldly. If you're done talking nonsense, can you get out of the way? Our business isn't over yet. Help me. A dangerous man hides in Chengdu. He's from the Shaolayan Temple. If left unchecked, disaster will follow. Help me find him. Pyo Wol didn't answer and vanished into the darkness. Jin Jianwu watched him go, his gaze heavy. Before arriving, he had researched the recent bloodshed in Sichuan. Most saw only the lives lost to an assassin named Pyo Wol, but Jin Jianwu understood the deeper truth. Pyo Wol was not a killer by nature, but a victim forced by circumstances. If I were in his situation, I would have acted the same. He was convinced Pyo Wol was not evil at heart. Meeting him only strengthened that belief. That's why he had offered friendship so boldly, and despite rejection, his resolve remained firm. "We'll meet again," Jin Jianwu whispered. Chengdu slept under a deep night, but some were still awake. Jin Jungwu hoped his quarry had fled to the Shaolin temple. If he remained in Chengdu, the consequences would be terrible. "I'll catch him before that happens. Definitely." With that, Jin Jungwu disappeared into the city's darkness. Dark red blood flowed across the floor of a room heavy with the scent of medicinal incense. The blood belonged to an elderly physician. He lay dead with his eyes wide open. Beside the bed stood a figure clad entirely in black, silently looking down at the corpse. It was Hukum. He had come here to treat his wounds. The old physician's house was the perfect place, filled with medicinal herbs gathered over a lifetime. Everything Hukum needed was here. He knew people were searching for him. They scoured Chengdu relentlessly, as if sniffing the ground for his trail. His safety could no longer be guaranteed. That son of a bitch, Jin Jianwu's face flashed through his mind. Because of that man, everything Hukum had meticulously prepared had collapsed. Still, his original goal had been achieved. The Qingcheng sect had closed its gates. But his wounded pride remained unhealed. "I'll make you regret interfering with my work," Hukum hissed. Laughing maniacally, he pulled herbs from the walls and spread them across the floor. The corpse beside him drew no attention as he began grinding the herbs in a mortar. Seo Mun-pyong stared out the window of the guest house, frowning deeply. Damn it. Seo Mun-pyong cursed. He had only made one mistake, failing to recognize a true monster. Yet the price he paid was unbearable. Yaju, his teeth ground together as he recalled Pyo Wol. He longed to charge out and take revenge immediately, but he knew better. Even at his peak, he had been helpless against Pyo Wol. In his current condition, defeat was inevitable. Realizing this only fueled his frustration. "Bring me a drink," he shouted at the trembling waiter. The man hurriedly brought a bottle of wine. Seo Mun-pyong drank straight from it, not bothering with a cup. Alcohol failed to dull his rage. Instead, it stirred something darker within him. Bottle after bottle emptied. Soon, his eyes lost focus. He was heavily drunk. Then, someone sat down beside him. Seo Mun-pyong squinted at the figure. Suddenly, the stranger's eyes shone brilliantly. Seo Mun-pyong stared into them, his already clouded mind sinking deeper. A whisper brushed against his ears, indecipherable yet compelling. His mind resisted, but his body did not. Seo Mun-pyong's head slammed onto the table. He appeared merely passed out from drink. When Seo Mun-pyong awoke, the guest house was empty. A powerful urge surged from deep within his chest. A woman. He staggered to his feet. There was only one place that came to mind. He walked alone through the dark streets until the red light district came into view. Without hesitation, he entered a familiar establishment. "Welcome!" The clerk froze upon recognizing him. The Divine Fragrance Pavilion. Flames erupted across Chengdu. Jin Jungwu immediately sensed it. Chaos spread everywhere. Inspection teams mobilized. Martial artists moved to suppress the riots. Yet something felt wrong. "This can't be his goal," Jin Jungwu muttered. Then one guy young came running. The Divine Fragrance Pavilion burned. At its center stood Seo Mun-pyong, holding a woman's lifeless body. "Pyong." No response. His eyes were empty. They understood immediately. "He's been controlled," Nung Soon approached carefully. "Pyong, calm down." A silver line sliced through the night. "No!" Too late. Seo Mun-pyong's head fell to the ground. His body collapsed. A man appeared silently. "Pyo Wol." He gently took the woman's body from Seo Mun-pyong's arms. Her skin was cold. She was already dead. Su Haiyang. No answer came. She had taken her own life. Pyo Wol laid her down gently. "For a moment I dreamed," he said softly, "a foolish dream that I could live quietly. I see now such happiness was never meant for me." He raised his gaze to Jin Jungwu. "Congratulations," Pyo Wol said calmly. "You brought me back to reality." "How dare you kill Pyong?" "My God." Nung Soon's eyes were just as bloodshot as Jin Gumwoo's. He had always taken pride in remaining calm and rational, no matter the circumstances. Yet now his mind was completely blank. Only rage remained, rage powerful enough to erase what little reason he had left. Nung Soon unleashed his greatest technique, the 18 White Moon sword style. It was one of the highest-ranked sword techniques in Zhonghu, rumored to shatter even massive boulders in a single strike. Something shot through the dust. Myung-soon barely avoided it, guided by instinct sharpened beyond human limits. A flying sword, a blade had passed by his throat. Had he reacted a moment later, his neck would have been severed. He rushed forward, wary of another attack. Pyo Wol was still alive. That flying sword was proof. Before he could react, one Ga Yang moved. Proving herself the disciple of the legendary swordsman Han Yuqian, she executed a brilliant strike, knocking the dagger aside. She saved Neum Sun's life, but his entire body went cold. The deflected flying sword was pulled back into the dust, as if reeled in by an invisible thread. Two more flying swords emerged. Nung Sound and Wen Ga Young swung their swords desperately to block them. Jin Jianwu still hadn't moved. He watched closely as the flying swords assaulted his comrades. Threads of condensed qi connected to the flying swords, qi being used like thread. It was a technique he had never even heard of. Controlling qi with such precision required delicacy and internal energy beyond imagination. Neung Sun and Wen Ga Young struggled against an unfamiliar art. The flying swords struck like vipers, relentless, precise, targeting every weakness. They couldn't even approach Pyo Wol. Just surviving the assault drained them completely. Unable to endure it, Neung Sun shouted, "Come out, you coward!" Then, agony exploded through his shoulder blade. Something wrapped tightly around him. His body was yanked backward. Before Wen Ga Young could rush to his aid, something pierced her ankle and coiled around her shin. She was dragged away as well. Being pulled by an external force against one's will was utterly terrifying. A flying sword descended from above, aiming to finish them. Pyo Wol had bound them both with the soul-reaping threads. At the same time, he controlled the ghost daggers. Using the threads for both restraint and attack multiplied their effectiveness tenfold. Wen Ga Young squeezed her eyes shut, but before the blade could strike, Jin Jianwu leaped. "Stop it!" Drawing his sword, he shot into the air. He descended like a falling star. The nine-ring heavenly sword, the third form of his light soul technique. Bang! His sword slammed into the ground, unleashing a violent shockwave. A storm tore through the area, severing the soul-reaping threads. Freed, Neung Sun and Wen Ga Young barely managed to dodge the ghost daggers. The severed threads recoiled, rewinding back into Pyo Wol's grasp. The two collapsed to their knees, gasping for breath. As the dust settled, Pyo Wol's figure was revealed. He stood exactly where he had been from the beginning. He hadn't taken a single step. Shame twisted their expressions. Humiliated, Neung Sun tried to charge again, but Jin Jianwu raised a hand. "Enough. We can't win. He hasn't even moved." As Han Yuqian's disciple, she had always been proud of her sword. Yet she hadn't landed a single meaningful strike, forced entirely onto the defensive. Still, she endured. Pyo Wol and Jin Jianwu locked eyes. Pyo Wol had lost Su Haiying to Xiao Munpyong. Jin Jianwu had lost Xiao Munpyong to Pyo Wol. Their bond was irreparably shattered. Let's put our grudge aside for now. And why should I? Our priority is the one who caused all of this. If we fight now, he'll escape Chengdu. And if I refuse? But whoever survives won't catch the one who killed her. Are you prepared for that? His calm words carried no submission. Silence suffocated the air. Even Neung Sun and Wen Ga Young felt the space itself distort. Pyo Wol finally looked down at Su Haiying's body. Even in death, her face was peaceful. He gently lifted her into his arms. Only then did Jin Jianwu release the breath he'd been holding. The courtesans rushed forward, crying, "Madam, sister!" Some spat curses at Seo Munpyong's corpse. "It's all because of you." Neung Sun and Wen Ga Young turned away, hearts heavy. Only now did they truly grasp what Seo Munpyong had done. Pyo Wol spoke to Dan Seo. "You will take charge of the Divine Fragrance Pavilion." "Yes, bury her somewhere sunny." Dan Seo nodded, holding Su Haiying close. "We'll protect this place. You can focus on what you must do." Pyo Wol turned away. Jin Jianwu asked quietly, "How will you find the culprit?" "That part is easy. The real challenge is uncovering his background." "Background?" Jin Jianwu asked sharply. "Do you mean the Shaolayan temple?" Wen Ga Young clenched her teeth. The wound on her ankle still throbbed. It had been inflicted by Pyo Wol during their recent battle. Though the injury was small, no more than a pinhole, it felt as if a needle were constantly piercing her flesh. Had she lost after a fierce, evenly matched battle, she could have accepted it. She would have understood the reason for her defeat even if the bitterness lingered. But this was different. She hadn't earned the title Phantom Swordsman for nothing. Someone bumped into her. She raised her head instinctively. "Oh, I'm sorry, I was lost in thought." She couldn't finish. A black hand covered her face. Her vision went dark. She lost consciousness instantly. The figure who subdued her so effortlessly lifted her body. It was Hukum. Wen Ga Young hung limply over his shoulder, completely helpless under his technique. "You'll make an excellent ingredient." His eyes brimmed with resentment toward Jin Jianwu. He wanted to destroy him completely. But Jin Jianwu and the Hao clan had reacted faster than expected. His plans had unraveled before reaching fruition. Worst of all, his efforts had barely harmed Jin Jianwu. He had intended to plunge him into despair by killing everyone around him. But in the end, only Seo Munpyong had died. All because of that damned bastard. It was a bitter regret. "I'll retreat for now, but I'll return." Hukum felt no shame in fleeing. Retreating now to exact vengeance later was simply efficient. Still, it didn't sit well with his temperament, so he devised a final blow to Jin Jianwu even as he fled. That was why he remained in Chengdu. and now his goal was achieved. One Ga Young was his prize. Tang Sochu gazed at Chengdu's streets with a furrowed brow. Damn it, there's never a peaceful day. The city had barely recovered from last year's bloodshed. Just when things seemed to settle, chaos had returned. At times, he wondered if Chengdu itself was cursed. By dawn, the screams faded. Fires were extinguished. His workshop had escaped damage, but unease lingered. And then, Pyo Wol arrived. Brother, Tang Sochu stiffened. Something about Pyo Wol felt different. What's wrong? I'll be gone for a while. Where are you going? Shizang. Shizang lay beyond a month's journey across the western plateau. Is this because of what happened? Pyo Wol nodded. Tang Sochu sighed sadly. No matter how hard Pyo Wol tried to live quietly, trouble always found him. Wait here. He disappeared into the workshop. Tang Sochu returned, holding a black leather cloak. It's waterproof and flame-resistant. There are hidden pockets inside. He draped it over Pyo Wol. The fit was perfect. Inside were weapons and supplies. Take this too. He handed over a porcelain bottle. White phosphorus fire oil. Use it sparingly, preferably never. Tang Sochu waved and went back inside. Outside, Jin Jianwu waited. Ge Yang is missing. Pyo Wol's gaze sharpened. He's targeting me, Jin Jianwu said. Pyong first, now Ga Yang. He's gone to Shalayan Temple. I can't catch him alone. You haven't forgotten I killed Seo Moonpyong. I can set that aside for now. Pyo Wol turned. Keep up, or I'll leave you behind. You think I'll fall behind, but how will you find him? Pyo Wol stepped forward. No living thing can escape me. Jin Junwu let out a sigh without realizing it. He was standing inside the house of an old physician. The doctor lay dead on the floor. Flies swarmed over the body, and the blood spilled across the ground had already hardened. Judging by the state of the corpse, the man had been dead for quite some time. Hukum had sustained severe injuries, so Jin Junwu had assumed he would be hiding in one of the physician's houses in Chengdu. That was why the Hao clan had mobilized its members to search every known physician's residence. Yet no trace of Hukum had been found. It turned out that Hukum had chosen this place precisely because the physician had long since retired from the front lines. A retired doctor would not be listed in the Hao clan's information network, which explained why this house had escaped their search. Unaware of this, Jin Junwu and the Hao clan had been searching in the wrong places the entire time. He trembled at Hukum's ingenuity, but what shocked him even more was Pyo Wol. Pyo Wol had managed to find a place even the Hao clan had overlooked. Pyo Wol ignored the physician's corpse and studied the walls instead. Numerous empty herb containers hung there. He took herbs from here. Why would he need herbs? Jin Junwu asked. Manipulating the human mind isn't simple, Pyo Wol replied, especially when dealing with martial artists with strong mental fortitude. Conventional methods aren't enough. He carefully inspected the rest of the house. Hukum had attempted to erase all traces of himself under the cover of darkness. Yet to Pyo Wol, those traces were obvious. He's planning to cross the western plateau. What? Why would he go there? Holding a piece of leather, Pyo Wol explained. It's been oiled. Oiling makes leather waterproof. And people traveling through humid regions prepare gear like this. He likely made a cloak here. But how does that mean the western plateau? The cotton would serve as insulation, meaning cold terrain. As for the steel, it can be fitted beneath shoes to prevent slipping on ice. The only place that fits all these conditions is the western plateau. Even though it connects to Shizong, snow still piles waist high at the mountain peaks. To deduce all that from scraps of leather, cotton, and iron, it was beyond him. Pyo Wol smiled faintly. He would have prepared the same things himself. In fact, the coat he was wearing now served a similar purpose, though the one Hukum had made was vastly inferior to Tang Sochu's craftsmanship. When they finally left Chengdu, Jin Jianwu noticed something strange. They weren't heading toward the western plateau. Unable to contain himself, he asked, "Why aren't we taking the shortest route? A large horse is usually an old one. An old horse pulling a wagon won't last long. He would have used waterways instead. It's easier to hide a woman and saves time." Once again, Pyo Wol was right. They soon found the abandoned wagon by a river far from Chengdu. The overworked horse lay convulsing, barely breathing. Pyo Wol scanned the river. Not long after, they found the body of a sailor. Hukum had clearly killed him and taken his boat. "Congratulations," Pyo Wol said. "She's still alive." "Really?" "There are footprints, those of a woman. The shallow depth and uneven trail suggest she couldn't move freely. Like Seo Moonpyong, whose mind was suppressed. She'll be fine." "Why?" "There'd be no reason to go this far if he intended only to control her. He needs her conscious for whatever he plans at Shalayan Temple." Jin Jianwu no longer doubted Pyo Wol. Every action had a reason. What seemed meaningless at first was always part of a necessary process. As time passed, Pyo Wol's pursuit quickened. Jin Jianwu stopped asking questions. All he needed to do was trust and follow. Even under the harshest conditions, Pyo Wol never lost Hukum's trail. Watching him, Jin Jianwu felt a chill. Anyone who makes this man their enemy would have nowhere left to hide. They had reached the high elevations of the western plateau. Though spring had arrived in Sichuan, snow still buried the mountains here, piled waist high. Avalanches and hidden cliffs made the region deadly. One misstep meant a fall of 1,000 meters. The traces are becoming clearer. Hukum had stopped hiding his trail. There was only one reason for that. He knows he's being chased. I've got someone on my tail. Hukum's face twisted. There were moments when an ominous feeling would rise within him. He could have chosen to ignore it, but Hukum knew better than to dismiss his instincts. Trusting his intuition was one of the reasons he had survived this long. He altered his route and erased his traces with even greater care. Still, the unease refused to fade. It wasn't something he could be certain of unless he saw it with his own eyes. Hukum trusted his senses. Someone is definitely following me. He had considered the possibility of being pursued, but he never imagined someone would actually manage it. A sharp sense of crisis seized him. From Chengdu to this place, he had done everything possible to erase his trail. Even seasoned trackers should have been unable to follow him this far. Yet, someone had. That alone shattered his confidence. Whoever was chasing him possessed exceptional tracking skills. Was there someone like that in Sichuan? Hukum bit his lip. Only one person came to mind. The man who had ruined his carefully laid plans. The man who killed Seo Munpyong and neutralized Wang Gayang and Nuong Sun in an instant. Hukum feared no one. But the moment he had faced that man, goosebumps had crawled across his body, not merely because the man was strong, but because he felt they were of the same kind, a being who thrived in darkness, someone who would use any means to achieve his goals, a predator more dangerous when hidden than when revealed. Pyo Wol, he's caught up. Why Pyo Wol was chasing him didn't matter. The fact that he was chasing him did. Damn it, Hukum spat out a curse. If he were alone, he was confident he could escape, but he was burdened with one guy young. Carrying her made it impossible to completely shake Pyo Wol, yet abandoning or killing her wasn't an option. Doing so would render all his painstaking efforts meaningless. More importantly, Hukum knew Pyo Wol wouldn't stop even if he let her go. Pyo Wol was the type to chase his prey to the depths of hell. If their positions were reversed, Hukum knew he would do the same. That left only one choice. Reach Shaolan Temple as fast as possible. Jin Jianwu emerged from the snow-covered forest in a pitiful state. His clothes were torn and his body was covered in scratches from branches. The wounds were shallow, but his exhaustion was unmistakable. He hadn't dared rest, not with landslides, hidden cliffs, and avalanches threatening at every step. He glanced at Pyo Wol. Pyo Wol looked completely untouched. From appearances alone, no one would believe he had just crossed a snowbound alpine region. I didn't think I'd envy someone over a cloak. Suddenly, Pyo Wol raised his head. The wind intensified. If they lost the trail here, finding Shaolan Temple would become nearly impossible. Its location was highly confidential, unknown to outsiders. Then something forced them to stop. Dust rose in the distance. A group of riders thundered toward them. Even from afar, both men could clearly see them. About 100, Jin Jianwu said coldly. They're carrying curved swords, the kind used in Shizong. The riders were charging straight at them. There's no doubt, Jin Jianwu continued. Shizong is under Shaolan Temple's influence. Mobilizing bandits like this wouldn't be difficult. Bandits were far more feared than nature itself. Pyo Wol spoke calmly. You deal with them, alone. If I get tied up here, the remaining traces will vanish. The wind continued to howl, erasing Hukum's trail with every second. Jin Jianwu asked, how will I find you? I'll leave a trace. All right, he didn't hesitate. Pyo Wol would leave something unmistakable. Jin Jianwu just needed to hold the line. A cold glint shone in his eyes. Tracking wasn't his specialty, but fighting was. Now free of burden, Pyo Wol accelerated. What Jin Jianwu had seen so far wasn't Pyo Wol's true speed. Pyo Wol had never been foolish enough to reveal his full abilities. Now, he ran without restraint. The wind nearly erased all traces, but it didn't matter. Pyo Wol could smell them. To others, it was just a harsh, dry wind. To him, it was a stream of information. Among countless scents, one stood out. Sweet. Found you. It was Wan Ga Young. Whether it was her natural scent or an effect of her cultivation didn't matter. Now, even without footprints, he could follow her. He sprinted downwind. With Jin Jianwu gone, his speed doubled. Soon, he saw them. A black figure running, carrying someone over his shoulder. Hukum. Hukum hadn't noticed a thing. Pyo Wol had erased his presence completely. He followed like a ghost, breathing when Hukum breathed, matching his heartbeat, synchronizing his movements. At this moment, Pyo Wol was Hukum. That was why Hukum sensed nothing. The one who noticed him wasn't Hukum, it was Wan Ga Young. Her eyes widened in terror. If she hadn't been restrained, she would have screamed, pale face, emotionless eyes, like a ghost trailing them. Nung Sun pressed his hand against his upper chest and frowned. The tips of his fingers felt a tiny wound, so small that a single thread could barely pass through it. At a glance, it looked no more than a faint dot. Yet the pain it carried was worse than that of any major injury he had ever suffered. He bit his lip and stared out the window. I couldn't do anything, nothing at all. Not only had he failed to avenge Seo Munpyong, but the fact that he had been completely helpless against Pyo Wol tormented him. Someone knocked on the door. May I come in? The voice belonged to Yu Xinfeng, the shadowless monk. Please come in, Mr. Yu. Yu Xinfeng entered with his niece, Li Soha. Behind them followed a man Ne Sun had never seen before. Noticing Ne Sun's puzzled look, Yu Xinfeng introduced him. This is Hong Yushin, chief inspector of the Hao clan. He currently oversees the Hao clan's operations in Chengdu. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Hong. The honor is mine, Mr. Nyung, Hong Yushin replied politely. What brings you here? Nyung Sun asked. It concerns the assassin Pyo Wol, who departed with Mr. Jin. Nong Sun fell silent. He is extremely dangerous, Hong Yushin continued. The Hao clan has been tracking him, but we've uncovered very little. So, I propose cooperation. We should gather information about him now so we can respond immediately if he becomes a threat in the future. Hong Yushin was usually unreadable, but Pyo Wol was an exception. Pyo Wol was the most dangerous individual Hong Yushin had ever dealt with. His martial arts alone were not necessarily unparalleled, but the threat he posed was in a class of its own. His past deeds were proof enough. Nyum Soon studied him for a moment, then nodded. Very well, let's cooperate. You've made a wise decision. But I don't know how I can help, Nyum Soon said quietly. What do you mean? I don't even know what technique he used. Nyung Soon opened his shirt and revealed the wound. I don't understand how he injured me. If I don't know that, how can I provide you any useful information? Hukum felt every hair on his body stand on end. It's him. The reason was Wanga Young. Her heart rate, previously steady, had suddenly spiked. That reaction could only mean one thing. She had sensed something. Hukum immediately expanded his senses to their limit. Nothing. He turned his head, scanned his surroundings. No presence, no shadow. Nothing but an empty plain. For a moment, he thought he had overreacted. But Wanga Young's heart was still racing. She was staring at something he couldn't see. Behind him, Hukum turned abruptly. The vast plain stretched endlessly. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to conceal oneself. His senses were razor sharp, honed from a lifetime of paranoia born of his grotesque appearance. No one, not even experts from Shaolin Temple, had ever deceived his perception. Yet now, for the first time, he doubted himself. Because Wanga Young's heart was still pounding, her gaze remained fixed behind him. Suspicion gave birth to fear, and fear gave rise to madness. Hukum had always been the one who instilled terror in others. Now, for the first time, he felt it himself. His agitation spread to Wanga Young. She understood perfectly why he was shaken, because she could see him. He was following Hukum like a ghost. Every step mirrored, every pause synchronized. Whenever Hukum turned, Pyo Wol shifted just enough to slip outside his line of sight. Wanga Young felt herself losing her sanity watching it. Pyo Wol's movements defied all reason. How could anyone predict another's movements so perfectly? It was as if he had crawled into Hukum's mind. She didn't know that Pyo Wol had synchronized his body completely with Hukum's. Even if she did, she wouldn't have believed it. If Hukum walked, Pyo Wol walked. If Hukum stopped, Pyo Wol stopped. Silent, invisible, only she could see him. Hukum knew someone was nearby, but no matter how high he raised his senses, he could not see Pyo Wol. That made the fear worse. Are you mocking me? Come out! Come out! In desperation, Hukum unleashed his ki in all directions. The ground overturned. Dust exploded into the air. Still nothing. No blood. No trace. Am I mistaken? For the first time, Hukum doubted his own judgment. No, he's real. Wanga Young suddenly felt unbearably heavy. Hukum's patience snapped. Do I really need to take her? A vicious gleam flashed in his eyes. The real problem wasn't Jin Jianwu. It was Pyo Wol. If he discarded the burden, maybe he could escape. Fine. His grip tightened. With a violent motion, he flung Wanga Young into the air. She couldn't even scream. Hukum struck. Demon Fire Palm. A technique that shredded an opponent's internal core. Wanga Young could only close her eyes. Hukum screamed. A dagger was embedded in his hand. His technique failed. Wanga Young crashed to the ground, alive. Hukum howled, clutching his hand. Still, he couldn't see Pyo Wol. But Wanga Young could. Under the blazing sun, Pyo Wol's pale face seemed to glow unnaturally. Hukum tore the dagger free and fled without looking back. His only thought, run. Now, Hukum would lead him straight to Shaolin Temple. Pyo Wol walked on. Wanga Young stared at him in desperation. Her body was still paralyzed. Save me. Her consciousness faded. Are you okay? She awoke to a voice. Arms held her. She opened her eyes slowly. Brother, Jiam Wu was holding her tightly. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.